Hello. Hello everyone. Let's see here. Did I do that right? Yeah, I did. Okay. I think we're good. I think we're good. I do it every week, but like every time I'm like, is this working? Is this on? Hello? Yeah, I think it's on. Okay, yeah, so kind of a last minute scheduling here. Honestly, I've been working on double for like a month now. I kind of didn't know what I wanted to work on next. Um, so I think this will be a little bit more about what do I work on next? And I've got an idea. I put it in yesterday's newsletter, but I've got an idea on something I want to build next. So let's talk about that idea. Um, let's get a little backstory, I guess, for a minute as people start to wind in. Let's look at what am I trying to go to? LaravelShift.com. Duh, that's what I'm trying to go to. And then where do I want to go here? I want to go to the workbench. Let's go to the workbench. And then one more, let's give a shout out as inspiration to UI.sh. So maybe let's start with UI.sh. I think this might be a very good analog, corollary, whatever you call it here. So at the beginning of the year, I think, again, it's kind of a Laravel audience. Everyone, I think, is probably pretty familiar with Tailwind and therefore pretty familiar with Adam Wathan. He was once a Laravel developer back in the day. He kind of was open about Tailwind, struggling as a business because of AI and this, that, and the other. And like they wanted to pivot and figure out kind of how to kind of up, revenue really at the end of the day. And so they ultimately landed on this UI.sh, which is initially kind of this AI empowered Tailwind guidelines kind of service. But more technically, it was using MCP underneath. They've since moved to skills to kind of separate and reorganize, like actually refocus what they're trying to do. So now it's a set of skills like brand and logo and design and componentize and kind of, several very focused tasks that you would want to do instead of just like this /UI, here's a bunch of stuff and, kind of figure out which tool underneath you should use. But again, this isn't so much about what UI.sh does per se. I will say as a shout out though that I do use it. I've found it great. Several of my side projects recently that I've worked on, it has almost one-shotted the design that I've used for those. So I think it's a great little tool. And so I'm inspired by it. But again, more technically, initially they were using MCP. They would have kept MCP had they not wanted to kind of like reorganize, restructure those very focused commands. At least that's what Adam told me. So I want to do something similar for Shift. And, I bring this up again for Shift specifically, not only because I'm in the same category of like, how do I maintain business relevance in like this AI empowered dev world? But also because like, where is this? Yeah, no, not the prompts. I think it's this one. Is this one? Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. I'm dancing around this anyway with Shift, right? So I started, as you can see here, I don't know if these are dated. So this was back in May, back in March. So, over the last few months, we can see here that, pretty much since March, so basically the last 5-6 months, I'm focusing on, again, bringing AI more into the business, more of this collaborative thing. I don't look at it as competitive. I think Shift has a very specific pillar of knowledge that it still far surpasses AI at, just like UI.sh, Tailwind and Tailwind's refactoring UI and all of their UI guidelines still far surpass what can be generated by AI. Is it getting closer by the day? Yes, it is. But again, the point is, I think for now, for at least the near term, that is the case. And so Shift has all sorts of things that can be offered. This workbench has always been an underutilized refactoring tool. Because again, I just don't think it has the right medium. It's not kind of like in your face. There's even shifts that like, again, when you think of Shift, you think, okay, it's got to upgrade. Like from a business perspective, that's difficult because inflection point's not the right word, but the point of need comes from the customer. They have to kind of decide, for example, okay, I'm upgrading to Laravel 13 now. They kind of make that choice. It's not really kind of like being made for them, so to speak. So like, of course, the master marketing of the world is to like make you think you have a need, you know, when you don't, right? That's kind of the tricky marketing, right? But like the whole Steve Jobs things of like, you gotta have the iPhone, like, you know, iPhone didn't even exist 10 years ago, right? But like, you know, now it does and everyone has it. You don't need it, but of course, you know, it's top product now. So again, just kind of a tangent on like the marketing, but the point here is that there's all these shifts in here that like people probably just aren't even aware of. There's the whole workbench that I just showed that people aren't aware of. These AI, these AI review tasks that I have in here, analyze, run, review, refactor, all these things that are in here, people might not be aware of them, right? So again, the goal of mine has always been to kind of bring Shift to where the developer is, and where the developer is now is in a prompt. Whatever prompt that might be, Claude, Open Code, you know, Codex, whatever it is, their IDE, that's where they are now. Just like, you know, 15 years ago, they were in their terminal, right? So like, you know, you try to bring things to a terminal, CLI and all that stuff. So I want to wrap all that up. The one last kind of part to it though, is another thing underutilized in Shift are these human shifts. And basically this is me consulting. You're buying, you know, blocks of time for me to consult to help you kind of with your upgrade, your refactor, whatever it is, adding tests to that point. I kind of did this new backfill test suite one here recently. So there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of domain knowledge that, you know, could be shared again through a better medium. And I feel like that medium is very similar to the UI.sh approach, is kind of having feeding AI, training AI, or giving AI that skill set that I've had from running Shift for 10 years on how to like build and craft, you know, maintainable, you know, latest, greatest, fresh kind of Laravel applications, right? That adhere to good practices. Again, throwing in another random thing from mine, but like the base code field guide, right? Like these practices, I have a skill now that I run, you know, /base code, and it'll look at the code that AI's written and clean it up. Now there are things out here that do this in Laravel. So most notably is like Laravel Boost. I think it is kind of an effort towards that. I don't know how, in fairness, like I don't feel like Boost is maybe as opinionated as it could be, and that might be intentional, right? That might be intentional. But again, the framework itself is a conventional opinionated thing. I think there's opportunity to take Boost further, right? And so again, I don't know what it is yet. I'm really just talking to the camera here for like five minutes straight. I apologize, without showing any code yet, but like, there's something here that I want to tap into. So the analogy is I want to build something akin to UI.sh as they have from a Tailwind guideline perspective. That is like a Laravel guidelines perspective, but beyond Boost in the sense that like it actually, this is the part that's kind of the gap that's missing. I know what it can do and what it could do, or should do even, but kind of, again, the marketing of that, the quote unquote selling of that is the part I kind of need to refine, right? Like, because it's the age old question that I get even with Shift, why wouldn't I upgrade myself? Well, Shift does a better job. Well, prove it. It's just kind of the cyclic thing. It's the same with this. Well, why wouldn't I just use AI directly? Why wouldn't I just use Boost or whatever? So finding and identifying that gap appropriately. It's clear that the knowledge set is here. The advantage is here. It's clearly. But figuring out exactly which gap that fills and kind of speaking to that is kind of also equally the challenge beyond the tech, right? Okay. So again, we're like square zero here. That's the whole, that's the whole 9-minute spiel is, I'm trying to figure out how to build like a JMac AI pair, right? Because I've been writing Laravel for 13 years now. I've run Shift for almost 11 of that. We've seen, I am Shift, I am Iron Man. So like, these 100 and almost 80,000 upgrades that Shift has done, like I've been a direct part of. I just don't think that there's anyone in the community aside from maybe like Taylor and core members of the team that have that kind of pulse on like how Laravel is actually used in the community. So yeah, I want to be able to like encapsulate that knowledge and again, get it out there in some kind of like pair way. So getting back to kind of the technical side, I think the way to do that is probably with MCP. That's obviously what Boost uses. That's what UI.sh originally used. Again, Adam said the only reason he kind of moved away from that was to kind of add some more focus on what the tasks are. I'm pretty sure the Laravel AI SDK now allows MCP stuff in it. I could be wrong. I thought they did. Let me find out. MCP tools. Okay, cool. If your application uses Laravel MCP, okay, so that's a separate thing. Here we go. Separate. Here we go. There we go. We're learning. Honestly, don't even know what MCP stands for, so we're probably gonna have to read a little bit about that. I think today is kind of like it's understanding the technicality of how this works, because honestly, I think I wouldn't say that's the hard part. That's kind of only the missing link for me currently, because the rest, once you kind of figure that out, the rest of it I think is really just writing, obviously, like a crap load of markdown files and refining those rules or guidelines. So today I'm curious in like, how does this technically work from like the MCP? What do I use? Do I use Laravel MCP, obviously? How is this hosted? This kind of stuff. I just kind of want to like figure that part out. Okay, so leaving aside what exactly the model context protocol is for the time being. So we've got Fluent APIs, so we install it with its own package. Okay, so after installing MCP, we vendor publish. It's gonna make AI routes. Okay, so this is effectively a Laravel application. So I could piggyback laravelshift.com, of course, or spin up my own if I need it to be like its own server. So we'll figure that out in a minute. Creating servers. You can create an MCP server using the server acts like a communication central. Okay, that exposes. This command will create a new server class. All right. Is this like just a class thing, or is this like server registry? Once you create a server, you must register. Okay, fine. Web servers are the most common types of servers are accessible. Okay, cool. Making them ideal for remote AI clients or web-based integrations. Register a web server. Okay, fine. All right. Local servers run as, I feel like server is just kind of like a terminology for the moment. MCP server. I don't think this isn't answering exactly my quote unquote hosting question, so we'll come back to that. But I would assume, of course, if nothing else, this can be hosted on Laravel Cloud, obviously. Okay, so once registered, you should not typically need to manually, okay, sure, fine. Tools, yeah, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Let's jump down here. I'm not gonna worry about prompts. We don't know about any of those things yet. What's apps? MCP apps, an extension, okay. An app resource, self-contained HTML, all right, fine. Yeah, again, I don't know what that terminology is yet. We're definitely gonna have to come back to that part. I'm kind of focused on how the actual like hosting, authentication, yada yada works for this. So let's skip ahead a little bit. Meta fields, okay, fine. Again, I don't know the technicality of that just yet, or if it's even needed. So again, we're just gonna kind of skip that. Okay, yeah, like a little favicon thing there, fine. Okay, so just like routes, you can authenticate web MCP servers with middleware. Adding authentication to your server will require your user to authenticate before using any capability of server. Cool, okay, so this authentication would probably allow me to obviously create tokens and whatnot that obviously then from a paid perspective, so that's cool. There are two ways to create it. Simple token based via Laravel Sanctum, great, or any token which is passed in via the authorization header, cool. Laravel Passport probably feels a bit robust, as they put it. So we'll skip that. What else do we have? Oh, okay, yeah. Passport versus Sanctum. Okay, if your application is already using Sanctum, then adding Passport may be cumbersome. In this instance, we recommend using Sanctum without Passport until you have a clear necessary requirement to use an MCP client that only supports OAuth. Okay, fine. Okay, authorization, we did all that stuff. MCP client, okay. To other MCP servers. Oh, okay, yeah. The client lets your application discover and call the tools exposed. Sure, fine. What is this? Oh, is this connecting to another one? Named clients, client authorization, tools, more tools. Where are we over here? Testing servers. Okay, I don't think there's anything in here about hosting, or I scrolled over it. Let's see if the word host is in here. Oh, yeah, it is in the context of other terminology. Okay. How do you actually like run an MCP server? You can create an MCP server. Servers act as the central communication point that exposes MCP capabilities like tools. Yeah, sure. It creates a new server class. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything that's like run. Maybe I just missed it though. Okay, MCP start. There we go. Once registered, you typically not need to manually run the start artisan command itself. Instead, configure your MCP client AI agent to start the server or use MCP inspector. Okay, what's this? Oh, okay, that's like a tool. Okay, so there is something here. What is this about? Web servers are the most common type of servers and are accessible via HTTP post requests, making them ideal for remote AI clients or web-based integrations. Yes, register a web server using the web method. Just like normal routes, you may, okay, sure. So is that it? Does this just expose a web endpoint and it's as simple as that? I think so. I'm starting to think so. How could we prove that? I don't know enough to be able to, I'm so new to it. I don't even know like how to prove what we're doing. I could of course ask AI to fill all in the blanks for me here. Let's do this. Let's just fire up a Laravel new. Let's just do it old school here. Let's fire up a Laravel new. Let's install and publish the routes. And I should be able to prove that by registering whatever we need to register here and basically say, like, if it shows up as an MCP thing and I can post to it, then I have my answer. My gut is telling me this is now how it works from a web server perspective. So let's see here. Let's do that. Oops, sorry. I think I might have zoomed in on my screen. Let me fix that. Whoop, there you go. Okay, let's go to workspace. Let's do a Laravel new MCP server. Probably going to get asked a bunch of questions. Yes, update the updater. Yes, update the updater. What is going on here? Yes, update the updater. Okay. What is going on here? Is Composer failing? says nothing to modify. Okay, just don't update now. That's weird. Okay, so I'm gonna say none on the starter kit. Yeah, pest is fine. Yes, bring in boost, do your thing. And then let's go back to installation. I want to understand it, so I don't want AI just to build it for me. So for now, we're just going to do this. Okay. Get done, buddy. It's interesting that it brought in drift. Why would it do that? Yeah, just go ahead and run npm. I don't care. It'll take a second, but whatever. Okay, so we're going to install this. We're going to publish the routes AI file. We're going to create a server. We'll just call it JMac server and go from there. So yeah, again, today is kind of just figuring out like how do we set up an MCP server, and generally kind of like I think off stream I'll get a little more familiar with what it is. So that way into next week it would facilitate me understanding, you know, tools, prompts, what are the things that I would need to build here to make a kind of like UI.sh clone from like a Shift perspective. So boost, yeah, just do it all. That sounds good. No Laravel Cloud stuff. I'm just using Claude at the moment. All right, cool. CD MCP server. Let's go ahead and run that. Is this already in here? Oh, I wonder if it was already in there from Boost. It was probably already in there from Boost. That's why I didn't install anything. All right, let's copy this. Okay, so it made routes. Cool. Let's copy this, and we'll change this to JMac server. Okay, and then now it's saying it's gonna make this, I think. So let's just see what's in here real quick from like a cat perspective. Okay, cool. So it makes J space Mac server. That's fine. That was kind of a weird casing on my part, but it's how I spell it. Okay, so next we would need to do this. So let's just jump into, so right now if we do PHP artisan route list, we just get the core stuff, up, storage, boosts stuff. But I guess the point here that we're trying to prove is if I go in here and I paste, oops, hello. Let's kill that, get rid of this, and do JMac, and we'll change this to JMac, and what was, I don't know the name spacing of this, there we go. JMac server. All right, let's see now if I do this. Aha, there it is, get, delete, post. So I think that answers my question. The server, there's no separate server that's like run, and I think that's again my naive, you know, low bar understanding of MCP servers currently. So again, that word server in my old school brain is like, I think I need a server, like a box, like a separately hosted thing. But MCP server is really just, I think, the generic name for the application's not the right word here, because again, we already saw that in the documentation as something being called apps, but it's the thing, it's the central thing that encapsulates all of this. It doesn't necessarily mean server as in physical, like physical box, you know. We see here that suddenly now by doing the web servers approach for MCP, it's going to use HTTP post to do requests to and from our AI clients. So the next thing to do, I think, here is, again, familiarize myself with terminology, slow down and actually read the whole Laravel MCP page. And then, do some, next week we can do some kind of proof of concept where I actually build something in here, I deploy it, and then maybe I can somehow hook Claude up to that to say, like, oh, when you need to do this, do this. And we could do something simple, like it could kick back like an Inspire quote. Like, that's all, we could just do something like that. I just kind of want to see this work, I think, is the goal for next week. So it seems as simple as installing this package. So again, I could piggyback laravelshift.com. This is already a hosted thing. Or I could make like my own standalone app, mcp.laravelshift.com. I could still do that with the route registry if I wanted to, right? I mean, I think you can do route domains and we could hook that in a different way. So that's all just like DNS and routing. So I could still piggyback it here. I guess the point is, do I need to piggyback it here? Probably. If this ends up being like a subscriber add-on thing, it's just going to be easier to have all the tokens right here than in a separate app or shared database kind of thing. So it's likely that I will just throw Laravel MCP on here, and then those people with a Shifty plan, suddenly have access to that. That's probably the goal. So going back to this, basically drop this in. Let's add some routes and let's kind of see what this does, right? I just need to learn more about tools. What are the resources? I don't know the difference in all these things, right? So that's the part I got to kind of figure out next. But yeah, again, the goal here, let's use kind of going back, let's use that like push-pull analogy, right? Or poll. Let's do like polling instead of pushing, right? So we all kind of know the old school kind of approach on the web would be to like poll for something. You got to go and reach out and check, oh, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? You're the one doing the work, right? Kind of going back to that marketing I was talking about. You're the one that's going out to Shift, and you have to know to poll. You have to know, oh, okay, there's a new version of Laravel. I'm going to go out to Shift now, and I'm going to go run the Laravel. That's the equivalent in my mind of polling, right? So with the analogy, that's what I mean by polling here. I want to achieve a place where I'm pushing it. Like, you're in your prompt. You've hooked in the MCP server for Shift or whatever. And now when you say things like, oh, I want to refactor whatever. Hey, it's using Boost, it's using Shift, it's using AI itself, and you got more knowledge in there, more context. Again, standing on the shoulders of Boost, I could have a lot more context into what needs to be done beyond an upgrade. Laravel fixer stuff, Slimmer, things that I do when I'm performing human shifts, when I audit certain things, like building all that in and putting it at your fingertips without even thinking, just by hooking up the MCP server. I think that's really what we're going for there. Like it would know, oh, okay, well, you're not tested. You should really work on something like this next. You can do X, Y, Z. Of course, it's going to be like this cross-sell-y kind of thing, right? That's the whole how we started here. I mean, the same with Tailwind. Like, they're looking for new business avenues. But again, I have this wealth of stuff here already. These workbench refactor tasks, the upgrade shifts themselves, the automation, the knowledge of, not only automated upgrading of almost 200,000 applications, but the human upgrade of hundreds more myself, big projects, big names that are using Laravel and wanted to make sure that the upgrade was done thoroughly, correctly, audit, doing the latest best practices, all that kind of stuff. So I really just want to wrap all that up, right? Before it's too late, so to speak. Like, again, I hate to see 10 years of knowledge thrown down the drain just because people think AI is better. I think we kind of know when we push it that it's, or under a microscope, like there's still a lot of areas where it has some rough edges. It's going to get better every day. It is getting better every day. But I think Shift still has a place, just like Tailwind still has a place. In the guidelines of Tailwind, the guidelines of Shift now, I think, are probably the thing that can last the longest. And so that's kind of why I want to pivot into this area. I think that's probably the easiest way to say it. So with that, thanks everybody for joining live on my quick little 30-minute ramble here. I will see you next week where we actually build something and maybe even deploy it if I can determine the proper place to host this. We'll deploy it and kind of see it work with Claude maybe. That'll be the goal next week. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining live. See you next Wednesday.